Even now, some part of me wants to believe that if I had just loved harder, worked longer, maybe this family could still be saved. I built our home with my own hands, paid every bill, kept the whole thing standing. And yet here I am, 20 miles away, sitting in a hotel room, watching the second hand drag itself around the clock. In less than 3 hours, Jessica will walk into our kitchen and find divorce papers laid out beside undeniable proof, the kind that will burn her perfect little world to ash. Proof she's been sleeping with my own brother. Proof my kids have looked me in the eye for 2 years, hiding the truth. I've done my fighting for this family. Now it's the truth's turn to finish the job. My name's David Miller. I'm 38, born and raised in Texas. My dad worked the oil fields, my mom ran a diner, and I picked up a hammer at 15, never put it down. Miller Construction started with one beat-up truck and a handful of borrowed tools. Over the years, I turned it into a multi-million-dollar company, building custom homes and big commercial projects. We had crews all over the state, a reputation for finishing on time, and clients who'd take my handshake over most signed contracts. I had it all, the dream house, the pool, a big black F-250 in the driveway. Most importantly, I had a family I thought I could trust, Jessica, my wife of 19 years, and our 2 kids, Ethan and Chloe. I believed we were solid. From the outside, we looked like the family everyone envied. Jessica, my high school sweetheart, had given up her nursing career to raise the kids. She kept our home picture perfect, fresh flowers on the counter, spotless hardwood floors, the smell of cookies on Sunday afternoons. Ethan, our oldest, was the star quarterback under Friday Night Lights. Chloe, 15, was the artistic one, always rehearsing for plays. Weekends meant backyard BBQs, the kids splashing in the pool, my brother Ryan manning the grill while music drifted from the speakers. Ryan's 3 years younger than me. We grew up sharing a bedroom, an old Ford, and plenty of bruises from neighborhood scraps. I taught him how to drive, throw a punch, and eventually, how to frame a wall straight. When my business took off, hiring him as a project manager felt natural. The pay was good, the work steady, and my trust in him was absolute. He was there at every Sunday cookout, every game. Ethan called him Uncle Rye. Chloe lit up when he walked in. Jessica would often say how lucky we were to have family so close, someone who truly understood our world. Back then, I thought Ryan was my right-hand man. Dependable. Loyal. Part of the very foundation my life rested on. I had no idea that foundation was already rotting from underneath me. It started so small I almost felt ridiculous for even noticing. Jessica joined one of those fancy gyms across town, the kind with spa towels, smoothie bars, and membership fees you don't say out loud. She said she wanted to get healthier, but it came with a brand new wardrobe, fitted yoga pants, sleek sports bras, and tops that showed just a little more than before. Nothing scandalous, just different. Around the same time, Ryan began dropping by more often, usually in the evenings. He'd claim he needed to discuss a project, but I'd often find him in the kitchen with Jessica, laughing about something I wasn't part of. The kids started to change, too. Ethan, who once told me every play from football practice, went quiet. Chloe would clam up the second I walked in. If I asked what was going on, I'd get a shrug, a quick nothing, and eyes that avoided mine. Back then, I convinced myself it was harmless. Looking at it now, I see that's when the rot really started to spread. I'm not the type to leap to conclusions. My work is about solid foundations, straight lines, and no guesswork. So when I saw those little shifts in Jessica, the kids, even Ryan, I made excuses. Midlife slump? Maybe. Teenagers pulling away? That's normal. Ryan showing up more? Maybe he needed company. Besides, business was on fire. 3 new contracts signed, a high-end custom build in Westlake wrapping up, and a commercial project downtown that could open doors in other states. My days were 12 hours of job sites, estimates, and payroll. By the time I got home, I didn't ask questions. I didn't snoop. I kept my head down. That was my mistake. I wasn't suspicious enough. And it was about to cost me everything. 2 weeks ago, Ethan asked if he could borrow my AirPods, said he'd lost his. Later, I went into his room to grab them. I'd seen them earlier, sitting on his desk. His room was the usual teenage chaos, cleats under the bed, hoodies on the chair, textbooks in a collapsing pile. While moving a stack of books, one slipped and hit the floor. Behind them, pressed against the wall, was an old iPhone. Not his current one, an older model we'd replaced last year. Odd thing was, it still had battery. I should have left it. Should have respected his privacy. But something in my gut wouldn't let me. I swiped the screen. No passcode. The home screen lit up like a spark in the dark. I had no idea that what I was about to see would burn my entire life down. The first thing I opened was a text thread labeled Jess. 2 years' worth of messages between my wife and my brother. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't a mistake. They said they were in love. They made plans for a future together. They joked about me being an obstacle. There were photos, my bed, his apartment, even my office at a job site. Selfies half-dressed, tangled in sheets I'd bought. It felt like I was reading about strangers, like my own life had been rewritten without me. No shaking hands. No tears. I just kept scrolling, and it got worse. Another thread, Ethan. Then Chloe. The messages proved my kids knew. For over a year, they'd been deleting doorbell footage, covering for their mother, warning her when I was on my way home so Ryan could slip out. My family wasn't my family anymore. In Ethan's messages, it was there in black and white, code words, quick alerts. Uncle Rye's here. Dad just pulled into the subdivision. Even Jessica's instructions, delete the ring cam from 4:30 to 6. Then I opened Chloe's. She was only 15. 15. And yet there she was at the school play, smiling sweetly as she told Jessica's friends, Mom's been with Dad all afternoon, even though the timestamp in my phone said otherwise. Those weren't innocent little fibs, they were rehearsed cover stories, fake schedules, carefully placed alibis meant to keep me in the dark. This wasn't passive. It wasn't ignorance. My kids had been lookouts, active accomplices in their mother's affair with my brother. People talk about heartbreak like it's a crushing weight pressing down on you. For me, it was the exact opposite. It hollowed me out. I felt nothing. Like my chest had been scooped clean. I sat on Ethan's bedroom floor for over an hour, methodically photographing every message, every image, every ugly little truth. By the time I stood up, I knew this wasn't going to be some messy, shouting match. This wasn't about catching them red-handed and demanding answers. No, this was going to be surgical. Precise. An execution, not an argument. Most men would have stormed downstairs, phone in hand, ready to scream. But I knew my family. If I confronted them right then, they'd deny it, twist the story, make me question my own memory. They'd gaslight me until I was the crazy one. So I made myself a promise: when I moved, it would be one strike, and it would hit so hard there'd be nothing left standing. I slid Ethan's phone back exactly where I'd found it, then walked into the kitchen, the smell of dinner hitting me in the face. Jessica stood at the stove, humming, Ryan sat at my table drinking my beer, and Ethan was scrolling on his phone. "Hey, babe," Jessica said, smiling like a woman who didn't have a care in the world. She kissed me on the cheek and told me dinner was almost ready. I kissed her back, sat next to Ryan, and asked him about work. We laughed. We planned the weekend. We even talked about Ethan's graduation and Chloe's play. On the outside, I was the same husband and brother they thought they had under control. Inside, I was dismantling their lives piece by piece. That night, when the house went still, I went back into Ethan's room with my own phone. I opened that hidden iPhone and went to work like I was processing a crime scene. Every text thread, every picture, every timestamp, documented, organized. Jessica and Ryan making out in my kitchen while I was pouring concrete on a job site. Her in my bed with his arm draped over her. Selfies in his work truck, my company's logo shining like a brand on the side. Messages from my kids, giving them the all clear when I was away. Even one from Chloe with a photo from Jessica's phone, the caption telling one story while the image told the truth. I sorted it all into folders: affair, kids, company property. Tagged each file with dates and times so my lawyer could cut through this like a hot knife. By sunrise, I didn't just have suspicions, I had a war chest. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in more than 10 years. Instead of heading to a job site, I drove 3 hours to Dallas to see a man I'd only heard about in whispers, Mark Garrison, a divorce lawyer with a reputation for being about as friendly as a rattlesnake in your sleeping bag. I didn't call. I didn't email. I left no trail Jessica could find. When I got there, I dropped the evidence on his desk. Photos. Messages. Timestamps. He didn't flinch. In Texas, he said, adultery still counts. With this much proof, she's not getting half. She's getting whatever the court says, and not a penny more. Then he smirked. And your brother? Using company property for his personal adventures. That's a whole different weapon we can use. By the time I walked out, I had a plan, and it wasn't divorce. It was total annihilation. First, I cut off the money. I paid off every joint credit card, closed them without a word, and rerouted my paycheck into a brand new account Jessica didn't even know existed. Then I started liquidating. The boat went first, a 32-foot fishing beauty I'd barely used. Market's about to crash, I told her. Better to sell while we can. She smiled, said she was proud of me for thinking ahead. Next was the Harley. Some guy from Houston handed me a stack of cash and drove it away. I cashed out parts of our investment portfolio and funneled the money into a friend's business as loans. On paper, it was all legitimate. In reality, it was untouchable. Jessica thought she was watching a cautious husband bracing for hard times. She didn't see the man quietly draining the well before the snakes could drink. The more I shifted money, the more supportive she got. Sitting at the kitchen island, tea in hand, she'd tell me, if this makes you feel secure, do it. We'll get through it together. She thought I was spiraling into some midlife financial panic. In truth, I was laying the groundwork for the day her perfect little kingdom went up in flames. I let her believe she was in control. I even tossed out casual suggestions about tightening the belt, maybe cutting back on eating out, putting that Cabo trip on hold. She agreed without a second thought, probably figuring that less debt would make sliding into life with Ryan smoother when the time came. What she didn't realize was that every so-called smart decision was just another brick in the wall I was quietly building between her and everything we owned. She thought she was helping me feel secure. In reality, she was helping me lock her out for good. At home, nothing seemed different. I still grilled steaks on Fridays, still took my seat at the head of the table, still asked Ethan about practice and Chloe about her play. I kissed Jessica goodnight, curled up with her for Netflix binges, even brought home flowers for no reason at all. After 19 years, the role of devoted husband fit like a glove. Only now, every smile, every laugh, every I love you was just a line in a play where I already knew the ending. Meanwhile, the clock was ticking in the background. Accounts closed. Assets shifted. Evidence catalogued. The walls of our perfect life were still standing, but only because I hadn't chosen to knock them down yet. If she suspected anything, she didn't show it. Why would she? In her eyes, I was still the steady, predictable man she'd married. In mine, I was just weeks away from burning her little kingdom to ash. One afternoon, I called Ryan into my office. Told him I wanted to reward him for his hard work. His face lit up as soon as I said, promotion. I handed him the title of operations director and a small raise. Looked like a gift on paper, in truth, it was a loaded gun aimed right at him. With my lawyer's help, I'd rewritten the contracts. Now, Ryan was personally liable for every major mistake, missed deadlines, safety violations, misuse of company property. The very property he'd been using to sneak around with Jessica. I started feeding him projects that were little more than busy work, knowing full well he didn't have the focus or discipline to keep them straight. Every error went into a neat, dated file on my desk. He thought he was climbing the ladder. I was just building the gallows. And climb he did, right into one mistake after another. Late bids, blown budgets, wrong orders. Every screw-up documented with change orders, emails, and site photos. But the prize evidence? His drinking. I'd always known he liked a beer at lunch, but now I started showing up at job sites without warning. More than once, I found him with a bottle in hand, laughing with the crew while safety rules were ignored. I took photos, him holding a beer by a forklift, his truck parked outside a bar at 2 p.m., all neatly tagged and time-stamped. By the time I was finished, he wasn't just a cheating brother, he was a walking OSHA and HR nightmare. The house was the crown jewel. 4,000 square feet in a quiet Austin suburb, worth around $800,000 and fully paid off. Perfect bait. Through a golf buddy, I found a cash buyer willing to work on my terms. No realtor, no listing, just a handshake and a price Jessica couldn't ignore. Over dinner, I floated it casually, babe, got an offer too good to pass up. We could downsize, invest the profit, secure our future. She hesitated, bringing up all the memories, Christmas mornings, birthdays, pool parties. I pressed the financial angle, reminding her of my market concerns. By dessert, she was nodding. By the following week, her signature was on the paperwork. She thought we were moving toward a dream home. In reality, I was yanking the floor right out from under her. Once the sale was set, I began relocating what really mattered. Family photo albums. Scanned, uploaded to a private cloud, and shipped to a secure unit in Denver. My grandfather's gold watch. Swapped with a perfect replica while the original sat locked in my new safe. Tools from my shop. Replaced piece by piece with cheaper versions. Jessica never noticed the weight or feel. Even my wardrobe was switched out, the real clothes already hanging in a Denver closet. By the time I was done, the man living in that house was just a hollow shell. The real me was already 2 states away, laying the foundation for my escape. Jessica thought I was networking for new projects. In truth, I just registered a fresh LLC in Colorado, a name with zero connection to Miller Construction. On paper, the LLC showed me as just a minority owner, with a local partner running the day-to-day. Perfect cover if anyone ever went digging. I'd already secured my first contract, a multi-million-dollar commercial build in downtown Denver, the kind of project that would keep me busy for months and make my sudden relocation look like nothing but smart business. I opened a new business account at a Denver bank, leased a furnished apartment near the site, even joined a gym down the street. To Jessica, these trips were just part of the grind, opportunities lining up for the future. The truth? I was already living that future, one where she, Ryan, and the rest of my so-called family didn't exist. In my Denver kitchen, I laid everything out like tools before a job. First, the divorce papers, ironclad and drafted by Mark, adultery front and center with undeniable evidence stapled behind it. Next, printed screenshots of every text, every photo, every timestamp, neatly labeled so there was no room for denial. A USB drive held the complete digital archive, thousands of files, even the Ring camera footage Ryan thought my kids had deleted. On top sat the financial trail. Statements, loan records, closed accounts, every move I'd made documented to the decimal. And sitting above it all was a single yellow sticky note, my handwriting in black ink. I know everything. Don't contact me. Speak to my lawyer. When she read that, I wanted her to understand, this wasn't a discussion. This was a verdict. Amanda had always been polite with me. Sweet, shy, the kind of person who mailed thank you cards for little things. She didn't deserve what Ryan had been doing to her any more than I did. I called her from a prepaid phone, voice steady, Amanda, we need to meet. Alone. You're going to want to hear this. We met in a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town, far from familiar faces. I slid a manila envelope across the table. She hesitated, then opened it. Her hands shook as she flipped through the images, the messages, the timestamps. Halfway through, the tears came, not soft ones, but the kind that sharpen into steel. I'll handle it, she said, voice low and hard. And I believed her. By the time I left, I knew Amanda would be lighting her own fuse in Ryan's life. 2 fronts. 1 war. I told Jessica I had a meeting in Denver with investors, just a quick 2-day trip. She didn't think twice, these trips were part of my work. What she didn't know was that my real luggage had been shipped to my Denver apartment a week earlier. The morning I left, I carried only a backpack, my wallet, a change of clothes, and the essentials I needed to walk out of Texas forever. I even booked a fake return flight, sent myself a dummy itinerary, every detail crafted to make it look like I'd be back by the weekend. The reality was simple, once that plane took off, the man she knew as David Miller was gone. That night, I grilled ribs out back while Ethan tossed a football to Chloe. Jessica set the table, humming along to some country song. From the outside, we looked like a magazine ad for suburban happiness. We ate together, clinking glasses, talking about games, costumes, and school plays. Ryan even dropped by, grabbed a beer, and stayed for dessert. I laughed at his jokes, nodded when Jessica brushed my arm, smiled when Chloe told her stories. Inside, I was memorizing it all, the sound of their voices, the way the porch light pooled on the lawn, the clink of silverware. Not because I was sentimental. But because I wanted to remember the exact picture of their world the night before I burned it down. When the dishes were done, I kissed Jessica goodnight. In my head, I was already gone. Before the sun even thought about rising, I was up, showered, dressed, and sliding my one backpack over my shoulder. I leaned down, kissed Jessica on the cheek. Back in 2 days, I whispered. She smiled without opening her eyes. Ethan mumbled a groggy, "See ya, Dad," from his doorway. Chloe didn't stir. Ryan was supposed to stop by later for our weekly meeting, but by then, the truth would already be sitting in my kitchen, staring them in the face. On the table, I left the envelope, divorce papers, screenshots, bank statements, and that yellow sticky note. I know everything. Don't contact me. Communicate through my lawyer. My phone, wiped clean and factory reset, sat in the kitchen drawer. The number they'd called for years was already a deadline. By the time the sun cracked the Austin horizon, I was on the highway to the airport. 3 hours later, I was 30,000 feet up, sipping coffee while the life I'd built for 19 years came apart exactly the way I planned. Mark told me later Jessica found the envelope just after 7, reaching for the coffee pot. She'd probably expected another ordinary morning. Instead, the papers, the photos, the USB drive. By 7:05, she was calling my cell. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. Then the house phone. Then my office. Finally, she reached Mark's office. He answered on speaker, his tone even and professional. "Mrs. Miller, all communication will go through me. My client will not be responding personally." He told me she cycled through rage, tears, and bargaining in less than 5 minutes. Where was I? When was I coming home? How could we fix this? Mark's answer never changed, "This matter is proceeding through the courts. You have our contact information. The call ended with her sobbing into the line. Somewhere over New Mexico, I smiled into my coffee. By the time Ryan showed up to work, the grenade had already gone off. Amanda didn't just leave, she lit the whole place on fire. Within hours, she had posted it all, screenshots, photos, timestamps. She tagged Ryan, Jessica, even their relatives. The betrayal was out there for the entire town to see. Ryan tried to brush it off as drama, until security walked him out of the office. A certified termination letter followed, misuse of company property, breach of contract. No appeal. No severance. Just unemployment, divorce, and a permanent stain on his name, all in the span of a day. That same afternoon, Ethan tried to log into his college fund to pay his dorm deposit. Balance, 0. Chloe swiped her card for lunch at school, declined. No cash. No warning. They tried every channel to reach me, new emails, new social media accounts, mutual friends, but each attempt hit the same wall. Blocked. Deleted. Ignored. No, Dad, please help. No, I'm sorry, was going to change anything. They'd made their choice, and I wasn't about to give them the chance to spin it. They weren't innocent. They'd hidden the truth, deleted security footage, backed the people who betrayed me. They weren't victims. They were accomplices. Silence was my only answer. Denver was my reset button, new air, clean slate, no ghosts trailing behind. I moved into a modest apartment a few blocks from my new project. Small place, but mine. No lies, no secrets, no one pretending. I joined a local gym and started hitting it hard. Boxing bags, lifting weights, pounding out every ounce of anger and betrayal. Each drop of sweat felt like one more layer of the past stripped away. The commercial build downtown was a monster, multi-million-dollar contract, tight deadlines, and plenty of eyes watching. Exactly the kind of challenge that kept me sharp. Work gave me focus. The gym gave me strength. And for the first time in years, I was free. Even from 2,000 miles away, Miller Construction wasn't just alive, it was thriving. I'd handed over 60% ownership to my foreman, a man who'd been with me for 15 years and knew the business better than anyone. The contracts were airtight. I was now a silent partner, still pulling 35% of the profits without carrying the daily headaches. Without the constant family chaos, the company moved faster, cleaner, and stronger than ever. Jobs wrapped up ahead of schedule, clients were happy, and my name stayed untarnished. Letting go of the day-to-day was strange at first, but it was also liberating. I could finally build a life without the noise. Miller Construction was my legacy, and it was in good hands. Ryan tried to claw his way back, starting his own construction outfit, thinking he could rebound. He couldn't. Word travels fast in our world, his reputation was in tatters. Suppliers wouldn't extend him credit, skilled workers ignored his calls, and clients walked away the moment they heard his name. Within 3 months, his company collapsed under unpaid debts and bad deals. Amanda left, taking the kids and whatever stability was left. Ryan's life became a cautionary tale, how fast you can fall when you burn every bridge you've got. Jessica's fall wasn't as loud, but it was just as far. She swapped the 4,000 square foot home for a cramped 2-bedroom apartment with paper-thin walls and neighbors who never stopped arguing. No more designer handbags or fancy dinners, just the hum of fluorescent lights at the part-time retail job that barely kept the bills paid. Ethan traded his varsity football glory for a community college schedule and early morning shifts at a coffee shop. No tailgates, no Friday night lights, just textbooks, rent, and espresso orders. Chloe, at 15, picked up babysitting gigs to keep the lights on, missing school plays and nights out with friends. They were learning that betrayal comes with a bill, and it's not just emotional. Denver wasn't just a career restart, it was a reset for my body and mind. I dropped 20 pounds, rebuilt muscle I hadn't seen in years, and found friends who had no ties to my past. Guys who showed up for a beer or a workout, not because they needed something, but because they valued the time. Weekends were mine now, hiking the foothills, coffee on the balcony at sunrise, and the kind of quiet I didn't know I needed. I didn't waste time wondering if Jessica or the kids would ever understand. They'd made their choice. I made mine. Betrayal had a cost, and I made sure it was paid in full. I wasn't David Miller, the betrayed husband anymore. I was a builder, a fighter, a man who had walked away from the wreckage and built something new. And in the stillness of my new life, I learned the one truth that made it all worth it: sometimes walking away isn't running. It's the strongest stand you'll ever take. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover more hidden chapters from history, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications, so you never miss the next episode. New ancient tales are coming soon.